Hello, this is Isolde Trachtenberg with the Creative Mindset Podcast. So I'm ending the year and the decade on a theme that is so very close to my heart. And it's about living more kindly and compassionately on this planet and sharing it better with the beings we share it with. So the last couple of episodes have been about being more cruelty-free and some practical ideas on how to do that. And then I realized that I got things a little backwards. Because I should have talked about the first thing first, and that is awareness. Building awareness, becoming aware of an issue is the thing you have to do first. You know, if something feels wonky to you, you may feel wonky, but you might not have an idea of why you feel wonky. You just know that something doesn't feel right. You know that your stomach is fluttering a little, or the hairs on the back of your neck are standing up funny, or something just feels off. And you might not have a way of identifying it for yourself or articulating it for yourself. You just know something feels wrong. And quite frankly, that's what I felt before I became a vegetarian. I became a vegetarian in 1987, so I was still in college. And I did it in part because I started wondering, as I was eating my steak, because let me tell you, I was a hardcore carnivore, but I'd be eating my steak and I'd be wondering, what part of the cow did this come from? Like, where on the cow was this hunk of meat? And then I sort of started thinking that maybe I didn't want to eat something that had been cut off a cow. And then I stopped eating burgers and steak. Just was like, And then I stopped being able to eat food that looked like what the animal had been. So I couldn't eat a lobster, and I couldn't eat fish. You know, if you can see, if it didn't look like a rectangle of white stuff, if it looked like a fish or a lobster or a crab or whatever, I stopped being able to eat it. I kind of went, okay. The awareness came to me slowly, but it did come to me that, this makes me uncomfortable. And as I articulated for myself what it was that was making me uncomfortable, a lot of it was that I didn't have a right to do it, right? I didn't. I didn't want some other creature to die for my lunch. I didn't realize that fully right away. It in a previous episode of this show, I detailed how that happened, but you may not have heard it, so let me tell you. I was assistant directing a show in college at the University of Michigan, and it was Antigone. And the play Antigone is all about a young woman who stands up, she defies the king. And the reason she defies the king he's not a great guy, but her brother was a revolutionary or a rebel, and he died in an attempted coup on the king. And, the king is her uncle, so he was his uncle too. And the king, being as angry as he was, decreed that her brother would lie and essentially decay, unburied. And that, in ancient Greek culture, was a huge deal. So a lot of the play talks about that theme of, what happens when you don't rightfully bury the dead. And so I was assistant directing this play, and the director, Barry Goldman, who is a phenomenal theater guy, he's one of the best theater movement people ever, lives in France now, is a terrific guy, but he wanted to really give a visceral sort of experience to people. Hold on, got a cough. So he decided that he was going to get a side of cow from the butcher, and he was going to string it up from the ceiling and put hot spotlights on it and let the people in the theater know what it was really like to have a dead body decomposing right in front of them, which sort of was, with the smells and the whatever, I'm getting sick just thinking about it. It would give the audience a visceral experience of what it might have been like to have a body lying unburied in the Mediterranean climate of Greece. So I was ADing the show, but I was also operating sound. This was in college after all. And so I'm up in the sound booth, and I'm looking down on the stage, and in order to see the stage, I had to look past this side of cow that was just hanging there, and I lost it. I kind of went, okay, this is what I've been eating this whole time. And the awareness, it wasn't a slow build there. It became a huge, and I'm not doing this anymore. It was like somebody hit me on the head with a mallet, right? I was just done. So I encourage you not to do that. Don't, if you can avoid the horror of something like that, if you want to build an awareness about it, about something, about animals, about the environment, do it a little more slowly. Dip your toe in the water instead of jumping all in. But, sometimes it may take you unawares. You might go to a park that you used to visit as a kid that no longer has any of the greenery, right? It's gone for whatever reason. We are highly populated on this little rock hurling through space. So yeah, we've got a lot of us, and we keep reproducing. So there are a lot of former green spaces that are being used to make homes. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have homes for people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that there's always a price to pay, right? If you take over a green space, that's less green space for whatever you choose to use it for, right? There's less green space. If an animal species goes extinct, then it's gone forever. And we have just recently seen the Sumatran black rhino, the last one, and the fires in Australia. There are people that are saying that koalas, who are some of my favorite animals, are functionally extinct now because so much of their habitat has been destroyed by the wildfires. And the wildfires are due, in effect, to climate change. And I say climate change, and I'm going to talk about this in the next episode. Let's not call it that. It's climate extremes. It's not just changing. It's hurtling into the unknown. And so when I think about climate and how the planet is changing so radically, so drastically, it's nuts, right? And I'm going to talk about it in tomorrow's episode, but just bear that in mind, that this is an awareness building situation. The more awareness we have about what's actually going on, the better we will be able to handle what happens. And for me, the awakening to being kinder to animals came before the awakening of knowing more, being aware about the environment. I didn't really get into that until I worked at the National Geographic Society and worked on environmental education products and projects. And then I moved to NASA, so I got, a triple helping of becoming more aware of our environment. This is it, folks. This is what we've got. We're on this one closed system. So the more we are aware of that, the better. But that's more for tomorrow's episode. I really want to talk about today this idea of building an awareness of what you're putting in your body and the products you use. Start with asking yourself those questions. What am I doing here? And am I really okay with it? Deep down, on a follow it back to its source kind of level, if you're about to eat a hamburger, give a thought to the cow that meat belonged on. What was that cow's life like? What was she going through? I'm not going to go humane slaughter because I don't think that's possible. But, what were her living conditions like? What was happening? There's a book by Douglas Adams called The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. And in that book, he talks, you go to the end of the universe, like that evening at 10 p.m. or whatever, the universe ends. So there's a chance for our main character, to go that far in the future to be at the restaurant at the point at which the universe ends. So the character is at the restaurant at the end of the universe, and this cow comes up, a talking cow, and goes, "Hi, my name is Bessie. I'm going to be your dinner tonight. I completely understand what's about to happen, understand the consequences of this, and I have agreed that this will happen. So in that moment, that main character goes, wait, what? You talking cow and you're okay with this? And the cow is like, yes, I understand what's about to happen, and I am able to give my consent at the end of the universe for me to be your last meal. And I remember reading that going, wow, what an amazing thing, right? That the cow was sentient, obviously amazing, and this is science fiction fantasy. But imagine how many animals out there would give their consent to being killed so that others could consume them. No deer stands there while the wolf hunts the deer, right? No doe's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to stand here while you hunt me and catch me and kill me and eat me. No, they run away. Why? Because they don't want to be killed and eaten. No animal wants to be killed and eaten, except for Bessie, the cow at the end of the universe, who is sentient and can give consent. They don't give consent, right? They run away from hunters. They run away because they don't want to be caught, killed, and eaten. And so that goes for animals living on factory farms. That goes for animals in slaughterhouses. That goes for animals anywhere. Chances are they do not want to be caught, killed, and eaten. Okay? And they don't want to be in pain. They scream. Let's call it what it is. So building that awareness is super important for all of us, to know what it is that we are putting in our mouths and what kind of torture and suffering did that critter go through before parts of that critter got on our plate. And I just want to say, I could say that I'm sorry if this is hard to hear, but again, like Rob Roy, that movie, Jessica Lange's character says, if I could bear to endure it, you can bear to be silent. Well, I feel the same way about this. If these poor creatures can bear to endure their lives and the ends of their lives, the horror of the ends of their lives, then by gum, I can bear to bear witness. I can bear to think about it, and I can bear to talk about it. And I think it's something we all need to pay attention to, because we are all on this rock together. This beautiful big blue marble, this is all we have. So the more we build the awareness of what we put in ourselves, of the effects that our actions have, the things we say, the better off every single one of us on this planet will be, and the better off the entire planet will be. But first step is building that awareness. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back tomorrow.